Hi, if you're new, my name is Claire and welcome to What I Read in 2023. This is going to be every single book, and the month of December is not over yet, so I definitely plan on reading at least 2 or 3 more books. Maybe, hopefully, if everything goes to plan. So far, I've read 115 books. Granted, I was unemployed for a lot of this year, but I genuinely just love getting lost in another world. So I'm going to tell you every book I read and give you my rating, explain a little bit about it, and maybe you'll want to read these books for yourself. But like I said, there's so far 115 to get through, so I'm definitely going to be filming this in sections. So I'll be wearing different clothes probably the next time you see me. But let's get into it. The first book I read this year was Ginger Volo's book, Becoming Free Indeed. I gave it a 4 out of 5 on Goodreads. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I am really glad that she's kind of stepping out of the kind of cult-like environment she was brought up in. But I do really enjoy it, and I do like that she is recognizing areas that her parents could have done better for her in. Then I read Turn of the Screw by Henry James. I enjoyed the movie The Turning a lot. I like horror movies. I like movies that make you think. And so I thought the book was going to be really good because, you know, I'd heard nothing but good things about it, but I gave it a 2 out of 5 on Goodreads. I did not enjoy it. I thought a lot of the random stories in there made no sense. And the ending in the movie was way better than the book. So I was thoroughly disappointed. And I am definitely a book over movie person, and I was disappointed. Then I read Library of Souls by Ransom Riggs, and that is the 3rd book, I believe, 2nd or 3rd book. We'll put it on the screen, of the Miss Peregrine series, and I loved the 1st book, and I really think they should have stopped after the 1st book. It got so congested, and I think he started to notice this because in the 2nd book, a lot of the extra siblings just like went missing. Like he created some sort of plot device that he could use to not have to give those characters dialogue for a really long time because they all split up, and it was just Jacob, that's his name, don't remember, and the girl with the firepower, which in the movie they changed. Her name's Emma, right? They changed it in the movie to make her be the floaty one, but isn't that Bronwyn's power? I don't remember. But yeah, because it was just them for a really long time, and I really tried to stick through this series, but and then they released another book, so yeah, it's lost on me. I read the first 3 or 4, and I just, not my thing anymore. I gave that one a 3 out of 5. Yeah. Then I read Runaway Max by Brenna Yovanoff, and I gave that a 5 out of 5. You gotta love the non-canon Stranger Things books. I really wish these books were canon, because especially when I talk about Lucas's book, you'll learn a lot more about him that I wish was canon, because it would bring a lot more depth to his character. But I loved Runaway Max. I was hoping for some more backstory from her time in California rather than just her getting there and then Mike being a bitch to her. But it's okay. It's okay. You get what you pay for, and I don't know what I paid for that. I think Faith got that for me. Then I read I'm Glad My Mom Died by the one and only Jennette McCurdy. Favorite biography I've ever read. It's just so sad that she had to go through all of that, and I think she is a very eloquent woman, and I think she captured it all very well in her book, and highly recommend. Lots of trigger warnings for psychological, sexual, mental abuse, but very well written book. Then I read Such a Pretty Girl by Laurel Weiss, and I believe I got this at Goodwill a long time ago. Never read it. But it is about this girl whose mom continues to support her father after he sexually abused her, and he went to prison for it, and he comes back and she allows him to re-enter the home, not believing her child. Yeah, it's very messed up, but very good book. At the end, her mom finally realizes what a horrible person she is, and I gave that 5 stars. Then on a recommendation from my personal trainer, I read Fairy Tale by Stephen King, and I'm not a huge Stephen King fan. I love all of the movie adaptations, but I'm not a huge fan of his writing. He does not know how to write an ending. Sorry, dude, you don't. You're super successful and talented. You need to learn how to write an ending. Now, am I ever going to be as successful, talented, or as rich as you? No. So does my opinion matter in the long run? No, but that is my opinion. I was really into it for about half the book, and then when he finally entered the kind of like Oz-like world, I got really lost. Because then there was a dog you had to like account for, and I was just like, oh, there's a dog? But I gave it 3 stars because the first half of the book was really interesting. It kind of gave me, what's the Stephen King adaptation that Jaden Martell was in? Not it. The one, Mr. Harrigan's Phone or something like that. I thought it was going to be that. That movie was going to be the adaptation of this book. It was not. Then I read The Hanging Girl by Eileen Cook, and I gave it 5 stars. So good. It was a book I got at the dollar store, and it was so good. At the end, this mom kind of like commits a crime for her child, and it's a wild ride. Then on a recommendation from someone on Twitter, I read some of the Percy Jackson series. I read The Lightning Thief, and I am not a fan of Rick Riordan and Percy Jackson. The books aren't that much better than the movies. Obviously, there's better source material to work through, so I'm wondering if the new show, which I probably won't watch, just because just not on the top of my list right now, is going to be, because that has the potential to be really good. The other movies were shit. But I just did not enjoy the books. I thought they were pretty childish, and not childish in a sense where it was like fun. I'm just like, oh, why is he getting on a plane now? You know, that type of thing. His writing style was very much point A, point B, point C to get to point D. It was very much, does this make sense? Like, the difference like with Harry Potter is there's so many twists and turns, and it's not all what it seems. And though I guess it's not all what it seems because it's literally a fairy tale, the writing formula is very much choppy. Is that the word I'm looking for? Anyways, I gave that 3 out of 5 stars. Then I read Textover by Lindsay Summers. You need to get on Wattpad if you don't know this woman, aka Do Not Microwave. The cell phone swap. I don't know why they changed it. Maybe there was some marketing, like trademark stuff they couldn't get through, but such a good book, so fun. This girl loses her cell phone one night, ends up swapping it out with the hot football players, and he's being an asshole and won't give it back to her. But then he not is an asshole later. What are words? He becomes a nice person later. A 5 out of 5 stars. Then I read my very first Adam Silvera book, More Happy Than Not. I'm gonna say I fucking love Adam Silvera. He is a queer Puerto Rican author, and yep, just hits a lot of boxes for me in terms of writing and the perspectives I would like to see in books. He likes to write about things that can only happen in his books. In this book, there is this treatment which I kind of compared to the Ludovico treatment in Clockwork Orange, where it can alter your memories, and so the main character wants to forget that he's gay. And so everyone's like, fine, do it. We love you the way you are, but if this is something you want, go ahead and do it. Like, we support you. And throughout the book, you realize this is not the first time he's done that. And it didn't work the first time. But yeah, it's so good. 5 out of 5. Is it my favorite Adam Silvera? It might be. It might be. Then I read the next Percy Jackson book, Sea of Monsters. I gave it a 4 out of 5. I enjoyed it much more than the first one, but I don't think I continued. Maybe I did. We'll find out in the next part of this if I continued. Then I read Lucas on the Line, and I'm going to butcher this. Suyi Davies. He's an African author. I probably butchered that, and I'm so sorry. 5 out of 5 stars. Why this book is not canon, I will never know. It gives so much depth to Lucas's character. Like, you find out why he is the way he is in season 4, sorry. Why he is so hell-bent on not being a nerd anymore. It just makes sense. R.I.P. Patrick. And then I read my very first Frida McFadden book, The Inmate. 5 out of 5 stars. What the heck? What the heck? It is about this girl who 10 years after her boyfriend tries to murder her and successfully murders other people, gets out of prison and he tries to convince her to take him back. And it works. And then she's like confused. Did this man really try to kill me, or was it this other guy who's in the book as well for plot convenience? Which one? And then when he is out of prison, he says the most absurd thing that does come back at the end. And you're just like, I will see you guys in the next part of this video for some more things that I read this year. Okay, ignore my retainer. I haven't worn it in like 3 years, but we're really trying to fix. I mean, I guess I do have really nice teeth, but I am trying to make them that look nicer. I am finally filming the second section of this video, and ignore the fact that I only own gray. And I already have, what are those things called? Ulcers from my retainer. Perfect. I also just went to the bookstore today and literally bought like 15 books. So that'll be up here for you guys to watch. But let's get into the second part of this video. The next book I read is One of Us is Lying by Karen McManus, and I believe I listened to this book. And I am one of those people who can spot a plot twist from miles away. I did this with the film Shutter Island. I did this with Knives Out. I literally have done this with so many films and books as well, but I did really enjoy the twist. I gave this 4 stars. I thought I really enjoyed her work, but this was probably my favorite book of hers, and I thought the rest were just kind of mediocre. Then I listened to Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, and it is one of my top 5 favorite movies of all time. The book did not disappoint. There's so many trigger warnings because this was like a very messed up book, and a lot of things happened to Elizabeth that I'm not gonna get into. You just be warned. We're gonna kind of like call this section my American Girl section because I went through and I read all of the historical doll books. I started with Kaya by Janet Beeler Shaw, and I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. It was a great start for me. This was like the first one that was available. I had to wait a very long time for them to come available. Then I read the Rebecca series by Jacqueline Dunbar Green, 4 stars, got a rep. Then I listened to Half-Blood Prince. This is my second time through reading Harry Potter, and it was really interesting to listen to. I kind of want to do in 2024 like a video where I read the books versus listening to the books, because they're both magical experiences and they're kind of like different experiences, and you should definitely have both. 5 stars. Then I listened to The Virgin Suicides by Jeffrey Eugenides, 5 stars. I love the film. Sofia Coppola is one of my favorite directors, and as sad as the film is, the book's even sadder. Again, it is from the perspectives of the neighbor boys, and it's just a really tragic story with way more detail than the movies got to include. Then I read, or should I say listened to, Josefina by Valerie Tripp, 4 out of 5 stars. This is my favorite of the historical dolls so far. Then I listened to Samantha, also by Valerie Tripp, again 4 stars. Then I read Angels of the Resistance by Noelle Salazar, 5 stars. Then I pushed my way through The Outsiders by S.E. Hinton, and I've tried to read this book multiple times and got really bored, but you have to stick through it. I wonder if I listened to it, if it would be a little bit easier maybe next year. I will go ahead and listen to a bunch of books I had a harder time getting through, but 4 stars. Then I listened to Beyond the Wand by Tom Felton, 4 to 5 stars. Again, I just love Harry Potter, so. Then I listened to Addie by Connie Rose Porter, 5 out of 5 stars. I was just sitting there going, because it was a 10-year-old having to escape slavery, and I've just, of course, being in the position of privilege that I am, have never thought about a 10-year-old going through that. So it was a little dark, and I didn't know American Girl would take it there, but I'm glad it did, because it was very, very eye-opening. Then I listened to Felicity by Valerie Tripp again, 5 out of 5 stars. I love Felicity. I don't know why growing up Samantha was my favorite, because Felicity just is better. Then I read 7 Dirty Secrets by Natalie Richards. Loved it. 5 stars. Then I read the most popular book of 2023, I believe, Verity by Colleen Hoover. I did give it 5 stars. I think this is the genre she should stick to. Then I listened to Julie by Megan McDonald, 4 out of 5 stars. Wasn't my favorite, but I got the point. Then I listened to Deathly Hallows, obviously 5 stars. Then I read The Floating Girls by Lo Patrick. I gave it 3 stars. It was really hard to get through. Like, stupidly hard to get through. Like, it was a great book, but slow. Then I read Poison by Jennifer Donnelly, and it was kind of like a spin of Snow White, and it was just not my favorite. I don't really like fantasy, so that should have been my first clue. Then my Freida McFadden obsession started with The Housemaid, obviously 5 stars. This is the most bizarre book I have ever read, the most messed up book I've ever read. Highly recommend if you're gonna get into the thriller, horror, mystery genre, or Freida McFadden, to start with this book. Then I listened to Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens, and obviously it's a classic, so I gave it 5 stars. It did take me a minute to kind of get through it, just because it is a pretty slow-paced book, but I did get through it. Then I actually have the physical copy, but I couldn't get through reading it for whatever reason, so I listened to it, The Tattooist of Auschwitz by Heather Morris. It was definitely an easier listen than it was a read, for sure, but amazing book. Then I read The Maid by Nita Prose, 5 stars. Literally today just bought the next book in that series. And the last book in this section is The Wife Upstairs by Freida McFadden. This book is eerily similar to Verity, but I think I liked it more. Maybe it's just because Colleen Hoover wasn't attached to it. 5 stars. And I'll see you in the next part to figure out what the hell else I read this year, because I don't even know how many that is so far. Okay, again, we've established I only own like 3 shirts. No, I own a lot of shirts, but I only wear like 3 shirts. Anyways, let's get back into it. The next book I read was All Your Perfects by Colleen Hoover, and I did give it 5 out of 5 stars. I know people have a lot of problems with Colleen Hoover. I don't like all of her books, but I do like some of her books. Then I listened to They Both Die at the End by Adam Silvera, 5 out of 5 stars. Again, I've said this before and I will say it again, Adam Silvera creates situations and scenarios that can only happen in his books. Like in this book and its prequel, The First to Die at the End, which I'll talk about as well. There is a new like hotline that calls you and lets you know if you're going to die. Crazy, right? I would not want that to be a thing. Then I read One by One by Freida McFadden. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. Some of these 5 out of 5s I'm like reading back as I'm getting my notes for this, and I'm just like, was that really 5 stars? And a lot of them really should just be 4 stars, and this might be one of those, but I did give it 5. Then I read 6 Months Later by Natalie Richards, and this book is so good. 4 stars out of 5. Is about this girl who wakes up one day and it's 6 months later and all these things happened, and her boyfriend's like, yo, like where are you at? And she's like, none of this happened. I don't like you anymore. I don't understand what's happening. And he's just like, what? Then I listened to Wanna Know a Secret by Freida McFadden. I gave it 5 out of 5. This is the one I believe, because there's so many of her books, where it's this YouTuber who makes like baking videos, and she befriends this neighbor lady, and their 2 boys become friends, and then throughout the story, this neighbor lady stops talking to her and starts spreading rumors about her. But you find out later on that this woman has done this before to the mean PTA mom. But actually, the mean PTA mom is like telling this neighbor girl, yo, you gotta watch out for this YouTube girl. Like, her son is crazy and she lies. Then I read Never Lie by Freida McFadden, and that's the one where the psychologist has a body under her office floor. 5 out of 5. I'm sensing a theme here. Then I listened to The Perfect Son by Freida McFadden, 4 out of 5. This is the one where the kid, like, likes to kidnap and murder girls because the dad likes to do that, and then his girlfriend gets kidnapped and the mom's like, yo, what's going on? 4 out of 5. Then I listened to The First to Die at the End by Adam Silvera. Didn't like it as much as I liked the first one, but I still gave it 5. Then I read Kit by Valerie Trapp, 4 out of 5. Then I read the 4th book in the Ransom Riggs whatchamacallit series, Miss Peregrine's Peculiar Children. This is the first book of the series that I did not quite finish, and I gave it 2 out of 5 stars. He's got way too many characters to deal with, and I wonder if these should be books I should listen to, because reading them is just, I was lost. Then I read Alison Boyer by Phyllis Reynolds Naylor, and this series was like the first book series I ever read when I was 10. This was one of the ones I had not read. I own most of them. Maybe I'll do a video next year rereading all of them because I think that would be so cool. 4 out of 5. Then I read The Silent Patient, and I'm not even gonna attempt this man's name because I'm gonna butcher it, but 5 out of 5. Then I read The Housemaid's Secret by Freida McFadden, 5 out of 5. Then I read The Locked Door by Freida McFadden, 4 out of 5. Then I read It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. I gave it 4 out of 5. I like it. Then I read I Hate You, Don't Leave Me by Gerald J. Kreisman. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I have really bad OCD, so this was like a really cool book. I don't really read nonfiction, and this was really interesting to me. Then I read Without Merit by Colleen Hoover, and I've gotta say, this is a book I read 5-6 chapters of, and I'm gonna be honest, I didn't care. This was like the first Colleen Hoover book where I legitimately could not read it. It was so stupid. Then I also attempted Nothing More to Tell by Karen McManus. 1 star. I didn't finish this one either. Then I read Regretting You by Colleen Hoover, and I did give it 5 stars. This is the one where the main character and her husband are kind of unhappy in their marriage, but not like incredibly unhappy. But then she realizes after he died that he was in a car with her sister, and it was like in the middle of the day and they were going to a hotel, and she's like, yo, why were they together in the middle of the day when we didn't have something planned? Oh, they're having an affair. And in reality, she should have dated her sister's husband and not her husband. And it's a whole thing. And then the kid finds out that she's starting to date the hot teacher guy, which is her uncle, which is the main character's brother-in-law. And she's like, fuck you guys, my aunt and my dad are dead and you guys are... Wait, that's wrong. That one, which I don't even think they did until like the end of the book. But the mom hates to break it to her that they did it first. It's a whole thing. And this woman, the dead one, lied to Jonah, which is the hot teacher guy, that kid was not his kid. That kid was the husband's kid. Like, yo, how fucked up is that to realize your 1-year-old son is not really related to you at all, but you're still that kid's dad because you fathered that child. Then I read The Cousins by Karen McManus, and I gave it 4 out of 5. Then I read Then She Was Gone by Lisa Jewell, and I gave it 5 stars. This book was so uncomfortable for me to read. It was very messed up. Then I read the entire, or should I say listen to the entire Rainbow Magic Fairy series. Every single book I gave 4 out of 5 because yeah, they're stupid little children's books that I finished in like 10 minutes each because I have it on faster speed, but I like them. Nostalgia. Then I read It Starts With Us by Colleen Hoover, and I did give it 5 stars. I'm sorry. I like some of the characters. Then I read The Surrogate Mother by Freida McFadden, and I gave it 5 stars. And I read The Perfect Marriage by Geneva Rose, and oh my god, 5 stars. I still talk about this book. Like, the twist at the end was crazy where she was the lawyer and she planned it. Oh my god. Please go read this. Then I listened to Ward D by Freida McFadden. I gave it 4 stars. I finished this in like 4 hours. Wasn't one of my favorite one of hers, but it was an easy one to sit through. Then I read Happy Place by Emily Henry, and I gave it 5 stars. You will also find that video in 5 books. I gave 5 stars. That video will be up here. Then I read You Shouldn't Have Come Here by Geneva Rose, and I gave it 4 out of 5. Not my favorite one of hers, but I did enjoy it. Then on a recommendation from the Ink Drinkers bookstore owner, I read Allegedly by Heather Jackson, 4 out of 5. Then I read Hidden Pictures by Jason Rekulak, and oh my god, 5 stars. This is a book I still think about to this day, because how horrible would it be if you realized your parents were not actually your parents and they kidnapped you from a woman that didn't speak English and then changed your gender? Like, I'm sorry. This book was incredible. Like, so messed up. Like, I can't even fathom what that would be like, but I loved how at the end, the bio mom got like a lot of revenge, like supernatural level revenge, even though I don't really like when books go the scientific or supernatural route, but I liked it in this one. But we'll see what I come up with next. Okay, we're finally in the home stretch of this video. I'm exhausted. I just got done reading my 120th book of this year, so I thought it would be a very fitting place to stop at 120 books. I guess whatever I don't count in this video, I'll count towards next year. The next book I read was Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston, and I gave it 4 stars. I thought the movie was really cute. I think the casting was perfect. Obviously in the book you get a little more insight into their relationship, excluding like the smutty stuff, because you do get the smutty stuff, but it's more focused on like the text messages and emails and like their flirting style and just like things about their relationship that I think the movie's glossed over just a little bit. But I love queer romance.
Can you keep your gay to a minimum?
Then I read One of Us is Dead by Geneva Rose, and I gave it 3 stars. Then I started listening to the Hunger Games series, and I kind of want to buy the books this year and read them because I listened to all of them, but I did give it 5 stars. Then I listened to Catching Fire, which is also 5 stars. It's my favorite of the original movies and of the original books. Then I read Gone Girl by Gillian Flynn, and I gave it 5 stars. I love the movie. It's in my top 10 favorite movies of all time, so the book definitely didn't disappoint, but I also like that in the book because though the narrator is still unreliable, you're able to piece together what's real and what's not. In the film, you just had 2 unreliable narrators and you really had no idea what was going on. Nick lies about stuff and Amy lies about stuff, but in the book you can see what's written there and you're able to deduce what is true and what isn't, and I really enjoyed that. Then I read Razorblade Tears by S.A. Cosby. I gave it 5 stars, and then I also talked about that book in the 5 books I gave 5 stars video, so you can refer to that video to hear more about that book. Then I read Every Last Word by Tamara Ireland Stone, and I gave it 5 stars. The main character has OCD, and she creates a fictitious version of somebody who was a student at her school previously and thinks that she's real, and it was just really, really, really good. I did cry at the end. Then I attempted to get my way through How She Died, How I Lived by Mary Crockett. 1 star, didn't finish it. Then I read Unpregnant by Jenny Hendricks, and 4 stars. It was super, super funny. Then I read Icebreaker by Hannah Grace, and I was at the Target with Faith one day and she goes, "That's been all over TikTok." And I was like, hockey book? I need to read a hockey book. And let me tell you, it was not about hockey. It was very much not about puck hockey. It was about tonsil hockey. But I did really enjoy it. I gave it 5 stars. That is how I want a man to treat me. All these Anna Huang books, no, not how I want to be treated. Hannah Grace books, now that's how I want to be treated.
Clap if you care.
Speaking of Anna Huang, I read the Twisted series. The first one, Twisted Love, I gave 4 stars. This series is just so weirdly uncomfortable. Then I listened to Kirsten by Janet Bueller Shaw, gave it 3 stars. Heading back into the Twisted series, I read Twisted Games and I gave it 4 stars. I don't know that I liked it better than the first one. I think the first and the third one were the better of the books, but it's so weird to me. It's so uncomfortable. I finished listening to Mockingjay. Obviously it's 5 stars. And then we got to Twisted Hate, which it's so weird to me that they had the original sister and the brother's best friend, like that whole thing. And then you get to this book and you realize the brother and her best friend. And I'm just like, there's this scene, I think it actually might be in the last one, which I also read next and I gave it, I think, 3 stars because I don't know what happened in my copy, but they went to the dinner at her parents' house twice. And like when I say they repeated words in the pages, they just repeated the same 3 chapters. And when I skipped over what I had previously already read in another real chapter, it cuts to her literally getting on her knees. And at this point, they had not established that they were a real couple yet, and I was very confused, and I'm wondering if that just has to do with the fact that my book was messed up. But there's this scene in the last book where all the 4 guys are sitting in a room and they don't know what to say to each other. And the whole time I'm just thinking, oh, they're probably thinking about how all their girls are into the same shit. And it's weird because, you know, they all talk and some of them are related and they're all just like, yep, I spank your sister.
Wow!
And I can't, it's so weird to me. Then I read Enemies with Benefits by Lavender Fields and I gave it 3 stars. I thought it was gonna be way cuter than it was. It was not. Then I finished out American Girl with Molly by Valerie Tripp and I gave it 4 stars. Then I read The Only One Left by Riley Sager and I gave it 5 stars. Again, you can hear more about it in the 5 books I gave 5 stars video. Then I read, or should I say, listened to. No, I didn't listen to it. I just read it on there. I read it on Libby. Sounds Fake But Okay by Sarah Costello. I think Kayla also wrote it. I listened to the podcast now. It's really insightful. It's literally an autobiography by an ace woman. So it's just, you know, me trying to figure things out. Then I read History Is All You Left Me by Adam Silvera. That is also in the 5 books I gave 5 stars video. Then I listened to Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes and I gave it 5 stars. Very interesting how it was in President Snow's perspective, but it was about Lucy Gray. Then I read Before We Were Yours by Lisa Wingate. 3 out of 5. I didn't thoroughly enjoy this one. It took me a while to finish. Then I read Wildfire by Hannah Grace and I literally got it like on pre-sale. I was so excited and it did not disappoint. 5 stars. Then I listened to The Devil Wears Scrubs and I gave it 3 stars. Then I tried to get through The Lonely Hearts Book Club by Lucy Gilmore and I did not finish it. 1 star. Then I tried to push my way through If There Be Thorns by V.C. Andrews and I gave it 2 stars. I couldn't finish it. I am gonna go through this next year and listen to the rest of the Flowers in the Attic series just because now it's in her children's point of view and it's just not, yeah. Then I read both Book Lovers and Beach Read by Emily Henry, both 5 stars. I read Bones and All by Camille DeAngelis, 4 stars. I read Final Girls by Riley Sager, 4 stars. I read People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry, 4 stars. I read House Across the Lake by Riley Sager, 3 stars. I attempted to get through Turtles All the Way Down by John Green, did not finish it, 1 star. I read Wild Things by Laura Kay, 5 stars. Then I read Heartbones by Colleen Hoover and I gave it 5 stars. Then I read Perfect Chemistry by Simone Eculis and I gave it 4 stars. Then I read Lock the Doors by Vincent Ralph and I gave it 4 stars. Then I read If I See You Again Tomorrow by Robbie Couch. I gave it 5 stars and that is in the 5 books I gave 5 stars video. Then I tried to read, or should I say listen to Black Cake by, is that Caramine Wilkerson? I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. 2 stars. I think it's a book that I need to physically read because I was very, very, very lost. Somewhere in picking the list off of my Goodreads, I forgot to include a few different books. I read The Lovely Bones. I also read Do Not Disturb by Freida McFadden. And I also read Buttons and Lace. So I love how I just forget to put 3 books in there, but there we go, not missing a single one. Then I read 8 Dates and Nights by Betsy Aldredge and I gave it 4 stars. I love a Jewish romance. I need to read more. And then I just got done reading 5 Total Strangers by Natalie D. Richards and I gave it 4 stars. But those are all the books I read this year and I'm sure I will be reading more before 2024, but yeah. That is it. I hope you enjoyed this video. I put a lot of time and effort into it, so I hope it at least gets 100 views, you know? But Reese and I are gonna go read some more books and edit this video. So see you in 2024.